Okay, day 189, part 4. Gosh, all in a day's work. My, how things change sometimes. I stopped at a rest stop just about ready to go into Iowa, and I got an incredible email from a operating room nurse who's been doing transplant surgery for 35 years. And now I believe she's retired now, but she lives in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Anyway, she told me about this rat line between Chicago and Minneapolis-St. Paul, known as the I-90-94 rat line. So many things she mentioned. She mentioned, first of all, IU, Indiana University, doing transplants, intestinal transplants, which I didn't know you could do. There's the heart transplant, there's the liver transplant, there's the kidney transplants, then the lung transplants came along, and now, of course, all the bone marrow harvesting and all the transplants of different body parts, tendons and so forth. But I did not know about intestinal transplants. I guess if you had some kind of diverticulitis or something going wrong with your intestines, you have an intestine transplant. So what she also mentioned was most of the doctors were foreign there, which is great, most being from India. But then if they weren't from India, they were from North Carolina. And when you're from North Carolina, it kind of like is the placeholder for Pakistan and UAE, why would you just say Pakistan and UAE? Now, this kind of hits home a little bit for me because, and I love the kids, most of my kids that went graduating with my son at Columbia are Pakistani or Indian. They're all Purdue grads or something, a school like that for undergrad. Then they all went to graduate school at Harvard or Yale, or they went to Ivy League and so forth. And my kid's the poor white kid in the back with the great grades. My son had a 34 on the MCATs, I believe, and I think the median for getting into Johns Hopkins or Harvard or whatever is UCLA is around 32. 33, so he was above median, and he had a 4.5 on a 4.0 scale. I don't know how you can do that, but anyway, double major, not in the soft sciences at Oregon, but a double major in human anatomy and physiology, as well as chemistry. So didn't take the easy stuff. He took the hard stuff, and he had 10 interviews, he applied to 10 medical schools. So, U.S. kid from living in a rural area, placed in no stoplight, had a yellow flashing light, so he's from a rural area. Couldn't get an interview. Even in Oregon State University, couldn't get an interview. Couldn't even get an interview. We knew folks at OHSU. I'd made contact with people at OHSU. So what I'm saying is, and we went and visited a lot of the schools, so especially the University of California. So with 10 out of 10 schools, he didn't get an interview. The last one was Columbia, which was a late one, and I said, Josh, you speak Spanish. Just say you want to do your interview in Spanish. Just in your first line of your interview, say, by the way, before I get started with my application, I'd like to just say I want to do my interview in Spanish, because he speaks Spanish very well. And Columbia is in Spanish Harlem, and so he got an interview, and as soon as he got an interview, he got the job, or he got the placement at Columbia. And all I'm trying to say here is I hope we're not going so far overboard to bring in people from different countries, which these folks are very talented and so forth. But if you have a 4 or 5 student on a 4.0 scale and he's doing a 34 on the MCATs, are we being prejudicial against people born in our own country? And if it's for politicians that are trying to bring in sheikhs to get, promise everlasting life and transplants for political contributions, that really distorts things. And those are the people that are in charge of these university admissions. And so that's what I'm trying to, that's why I did a right turn here, at Eau Claire, or a little bit before that, to go and see her, because she's got information about rat lines. She knows a New York City detective as well. So we're going to be fishing bodies out of the Mississippi in the spring and all sorts of stuff. So that's where we're headed now. I'm sorry For the Mango Express folks that were following along, I'm going to get to the Mango USDA place maybe tomorrow, but this story was just too compelling, so I got to go there now.